If you found a wallet stuffed with more money than you had ever seen in your life, on a morning when hunger clawed at your ribs and hope felt like a cruel joke, would you call it a miracle or a test? If you're new to this channel, just subscribe now and say it in the comment section, it means a lot. On a cold Lagos morning, when the harmattan wind blew dust into the sky and wrapped the city in a pale, restless haze, Aisha Bello sat on the cracked pavement near Ojalegba Junction. Her back pressed against a faded billboard that once advertised luxury apartments she would never enter. The early rush had begun. Danfo buses screeched to uneven stops. Conductors shouted destinations. Hawkers weaved dangerously between cars, balancing trays of gala and bottled drinks on their heads. Life moved fast, loud, and indifferent. Aisha existed quietly within it. Her dress, once yellow, had surrendered to layers of brown dust and time. The hem was torn. One of her slippers was held together by a thin string she had tied herself. Her hair, thick and dark, was pulled into a rough bun that had loosened overnight. She could not remember the last time she had looked into a mirror, but she knew what she would see, a girl people avoided looking at. She cupped her small hands and poured the morning's earnings into her palm. 350 naira notes, crumpled. 8 coins. She counted slowly, as if the numbers might increase out of pity. 190, she whispered to herself. It would buy a small loaf of bread and maybe a sachet of water. Not enough for later. Not enough for tomorrow. A car rolled down its tinted window beside her. Aisha looked up quickly, hope flickering in her chest. The driver, a woman in oversized sunglasses, glanced at her briefly before turning her face away. The window slid back up. The car drove off. Aisha lowered her eyes. She had learned not to take it personally. To the world, she was part of the background, like traffic noise or exhaust smoke. She rose carefully, brushing dust from her dress. The pavement had left a dull ache in her back. She adjusted the small nylon bag that held all she owned, a thin wrapper, an old photograph, and a plastic bottle she refilled from public taps when she could. The traffic light turned red again, and vehicles stacked up along the road. That was when she saw it. Something dark lay near the curb, inches from a moving tire. It looked heavy. Important. Out of place. At first, she ignored it. People drop things all the time, receipts, empty packs, useless scraps. But as the wind shifted, the object flipped slightly, revealing smooth black leather. A wallet. Her heartbeat slowed, then quickened. She glanced around. No one seemed to notice. A man on a motorcycle argued with a bus conductor. A woman hurried across the road, dragging a reluctant child. Horns blared. The wallet remained there, vulnerable to the next passing tire. Without allowing herself to think too deeply, Aisha stepped forward and picked it up. It was heavier than she expected. Warm from the sun. Soft beneath her fingers. She swallowed. Maybe she should ask around. Maybe someone was searching for it. But no one was looking. No one shouted. No one seemed concerned. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The world seemed to muffle itself. The noise faded into a distant hum. Stacks of crisp naira notes stared back at her. Thick. Neatly folded. Bound by a small band. She had seen money before, but never like this. Never this much. Her breath caught in her throat. She quickly shut the wallet, pressing it against her chest as though someone might snatch it from her hands. She looked left. Right. Still no reaction. Slowly, she crouched back down against the billboard and opened it again, this time more carefully. The money filled almost every compartment. There were cards too, shiny, embossed, powerful looking. A driver's license. A few receipts. Her stomach twisted, not from fear, but from hunger. "This is enough," she murmured. Enough for food. For clothes. For a place to sleep. Her mind raced ahead of her. She imagined renting a small room somewhere quiet. Buying fresh bread without calculating coins first. Owning 2 dresses. Maybe 3. Bathing every day with real soap instead of a shared bar pass between strangers at the public tap. For a brief second, warmth spread through her chest. Then something colder followed it. She pulled out the driver's license. The name printed boldly across the card made her blink twice. Chief Colonel Adeyemi. Even she knew that name. Everyone did. His face was on towering billboards along Victoria Island. His company logo stood tall on skyscrapers. He built estates, funded political campaigns, appeared on television shaking hands with governors. A billionaire. Aisha's fingers tightened around the card. This was not just someone's wallet. This belonged to a man surrounded by security, power, and influence. A man who would not lose something like this without consequences falling on someone. Her thoughts spiraled. If he realized it was missing, he would search. If cameras traced his steps, they might see her. If someone accused her. She shook her head sharply. No one had seen her pick it up. No one cared enough to notice her at all. She looked back inside. The money almost glowed against the dark leather. A voice inside her whispered softly, urgently. Take it. This is your miracle. This is the answer to every cold night. Her stomach growled in agreement. But another memory rose, uninvited. Her mother's voice, firm but gentle. Aisha, we may not have much, but what we have is clean hands. Aisha closed her eyes. Her mother had been gone 3 years now. Fever took her during one brutal rainy season when they could not afford proper treatment. Since then, the streets had become Aisha's guardian and her enemy. She pressed the wallet against her chest again, as though trying to quiet the storm inside her. Just today, she whispered. Just this once. Yet even as the words left her mouth, they felt wrong. Heavy. A loud horn blared beside her, jolting her back to the present. The traffic light had changed again. Life moved forward, unconcerned with her crisis. Aisha stared down at the name once more. Chief Colonel Adeyemi. This money could change everything. But something about the weight of it felt larger than currency. It felt like a choice. She stood slowly, the wind lifting dust around her ankles. The city continued rushing past, blind to the battle unfolding within a girl it refused to see. Aisha slipped the wallet carefully into her nylon bag, her hand still trembling, not with excitement, but with the terrifying awareness that the next decision she made would define who she was becoming. The name on the driver's license did not fade no matter how many times Aisha blinked. Chief Colonel Adeyemi. Even standing alone beneath the fading billboard, she felt as if the letters themselves were watching her, demanding something. The harmattan wind grew sharper as the morning stretched toward noon, but she barely noticed the cold anymore. Her thoughts were louder than the traffic. She walked aimlessly at first, weaving through pedestrians, her nylon bag clutched tightly against her side. The wallet felt heavier now, not because of the money, but because of what it represented. Every siren in the distance made her flinch. Every uniformed official made her heart slam against her ribs. Calm down, she muttered to herself. No one saw you. But she wasn't afraid of being seen. She was afraid of what she might become. Hunger gnawed at her again, more vicious than before. The smell of frying akara drifted from a nearby roadside stall. Oil crackled in a blackened pan. A woman fanned the flames beneath it while chatting loudly with a customer. Aisha stopped walking. She could walk over, open the wallet, peel off one note, just one, and buy food. No one would know. Chief Colonel Adeyemi would not feel the loss. It would be like removing a drop of water from the ocean. Her fingers slipped into the bag. The leather brushed against her skin. Just one, she whispered. She pulled the wallet halfway out. That was when something thin and glossy slid free and fluttered to the ground. A photograph. It landed face up on the dusty pavement. Aisha froze. She bent slowly and picked it up. It was slightly creased from being folded, but the image was clear. A little girl, no older than 5, sat on a man's lap. The man wore a wide smile that softened the sharp lines of his face. He looked younger, less guarded. His arm wrapped protectively around the child. The child was laughing. Head tilted back. Eyes closed in pure joy. Aisha's breath caught painfully. The girl in the picture had thick dark hair pulled into 2 puffs. Her smile revealed a small gap between her front teeth. She wore a simple pink dress. Nothing expensive. Nothing flashy. Yet something about her felt familiar. Not because Aisha had seen her before, but because she recognized that kind of happiness. She remembered sitting on her own father's lap before he disappeared from their lives. She remembered the way her mother used to laugh when nothing felt heavy. Her throat tightened. Why would a billionaire carry a simple photograph like this? The picture didn't match the image on billboards, the stern businessman in tailored suits, the powerful figure shaking hands with politicians. This was different. This was human. She turned the photo over. On the back, written in neat ink, were the words, "For Daddy. I will always find my way back to you." Aisha sat down abruptly on the edge of the pavement, ignoring the dust. "I will always find my way back to you." The sentence echoed inside her mind. The world blurred for a moment as tears threatened her eyes. She wiped them quickly, embarrassed even though no one was paying attention. Find my way back. A promise. A memory stirred, one she had buried because it hurt too much. Years ago, when her mother was still alive, they had lived in a small room behind a mechanic workshop. Life was never easy, but it was stable enough. Then came the eviction. The landlord sold the property. They were forced onto the street with nothing but clothes and memories. The night before they left, her mother had held her hands tightly and said, "No matter how far life pushes us, Aisha, we will find our way back to something better. I promise you." Her mother never got that chance. Aisha stared again at the photograph. The girl in it had made a promise too. A promise to find her way back. But what if she never did? What if this wallet was not just money, but something her father carried because he was still waiting? The thought unsettled her deeply. A sudden shout snapped her out of it. "Hey! What are you holding there?" A young man approached her, his eyes sharp and curious. He had seen the leather edge of the wallet peeking from her bag. "Nothing," Aisha replied quickly, shoving the photograph back inside. The man stepped closer. "That looks like a rich man's wallet." "It's not yours," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. He smirked. "Maybe I can help you count what's inside." Her heart pounded. She stood abruptly, clutching her bag tighter. "I said it's not yours." For a tense second, they stared at each other. Then a bus conductor shouted nearby, distracting him. The man clicked his tongue and walked away. Aisha exhaled shakily. This was dangerous. Not because of the owner, but because of others. Word traveled fast on the streets. If someone believed she carried money, she would not sleep peacefully again. She moved quickly now, putting distance between herself and the junction. She walked past crowded markets, past glass-fronted banks guarded by armed security, past towering buildings that cast long shadows over the sidewalks. The contrast made her chest ache. Wealth on one side. Survival on the other. As afternoon settled in, exhaustion began to drag at her limbs. She had not eaten since the previous evening. Her steps slowed. Doubt crept back in. "You are foolish," a small voice inside her said. "He is a billionaire. He will not even notice." But another voice responded quietly, stubbornly. "It is not about him noticing. It is about you." She found a shaded corner beneath a tree and sat again, pulling out the photograph once more. The man's smile in the picture seemed genuine. Not rehearsed. Not calculated. just a father with his daughter. Aisha traced the edge of the image with her finger. If she were lost, she murmured, wouldn't he look for her? The idea formed slowly, then solidified. This wallet was not just filled with cash. It carried something fragile, a connection, a memory, a hope. And somehow, in a strange twist of fate, it had landed in her hands. She stood again, this time with a different kind of resolve. She did not know how she would reach a man like Chief Colonel Adeyemi. She did not know if his security would even allow her near his gate. But she knew one thing with painful clarity: keeping the wallet would not bring her peace. The money might fill her stomach. It might buy her temporary comfort. But it would carve something out of her that she might never recover. She slipped the photograph carefully back into its place inside the wallet and secured it inside her bag. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting Lagos in a golden haze. Aisha Bello adjusted her torn dress, lifted her chin slightly, and began walking, not toward food, not toward shelter, but toward the impossible task of finding one of the most powerful men in Nigeria. By the time the sun began its slow descent into the smoky Lagos horizon, Aisha's feet were blistered and her throat was dry. She had walked farther than she ever had in one day, guided only by fragments of overheard conversations and vague directions from strangers who barely paused long enough to look at her. Chief Colonel Adeyemi, one woman repeated earlier, balancing a tray of oranges on her head. You mean the billionaire? What do you want with him? I need to see him, Aisha had replied. The woman laughed, not cruelly but dismissively. Even governors wait to see that man. You? Go home, little girl. Home. The word had no address in Aisha's mind. She kept walking. At a bus stop near Yaba, she approached a middle-aged man reading a newspaper. Sir, please, do you know where Chief Colonel Adeyemi lives? The man lowered his paper slowly, studying her dusty clothes and tired eyes. Why? I have something that belongs to him. He frowned. Return it to the police. Her grip tightened on her bag. No, sir. He shrugged and returned to his paper. Banana Island. That's where men like him stay. Banana Island. She had heard the name before, whispered like a legend. A place of wealth beyond imagination. Private roads. Mansions behind tall gates. Armed guards. It might as well have been another country. But she asked around until someone pointed her toward a bus heading in that direction. She had no money left for transport. She had spent her last coins on a sachet of water hours ago. So she walked. Across bridges. Past traffic jams. Through neighborhoods that shifted from crowded markets to quieter streets lined with trimmed hedges and high walls. As dusk deepened, streetlights flickered on one by one. The air changed here. Cleaner. Quieter. Even the cars seemed more expensive. Aisha felt smaller with every step. Finally, after what felt like hours, she stood before a gate taller than any building she had ever entered. Black iron bars stretched upward, crowned with sharp designs. Beyond them, she could glimpse a long driveway lit by soft golden lamps. The house itself stood in the distance, massive, elegant, glowing under carefully placed lights. Her heart pounded violently. This was it. 2 security men stood at the gate, dressed in crisp uniforms. One held a communication device, the other watched the road with alert eyes. When they noticed Aisha approaching, their expressions hardened instantly. Stop there, one barked. She froze, swallowing. Good evening, sir. This is private property, the second guard said firmly. Move along. I need to see Chief Colonel Adeyemi. The first guard let out a short laugh. You and half of Nigeria. I'm serious, she insisted. Her voice trembled but did not break. It's important. The second guard stepped closer to the bars, studying her more carefully. Who sent you? No one. Then leave before we escort you away. Aisha's fingers dug into her bag. Fear prickled along her skin, but she refused to turn back. Not after walking across the city. Not after wrestling with herself all day. Please, she said quietly. Just tell him Aisha Bello is here. The guards exchanged a look. And why would Chief Adeyemi care about that name? The first one asked. Her throat tightened. This was the moment. She reached into her bag and pulled out the wallet, holding it up just enough for them to see the leather glint under the gate lights. Both men stiffened immediately. Where did you get that? The second guard demanded sharply. I found it this morning, she said. Near Ojalegba Junction. The first guard's hand moved instinctively toward his device. Stay there. I'm not here to cause trouble, Aisha added quickly. I just want to return it. The guards whispered urgently between themselves. One stepped aside and spoke into his communication device. The other kept his eyes fixed on her, suspicion written across his face. Minutes stretched painfully. Cars occasionally passed along the quiet road, their headlights sweeping briefly over her thin frame. She suddenly became acutely aware of how she must look, dusty, exhausted, small. Standing before a gate worth more than she could imagine. The guard returned, his expression unreadable. You will wait, he said. For how long? As long as necessary. Aisha nodded. She had waited for worse things in life. The gate did not open immediately. Instead, a smaller side entrance unlocked with a metallic click. Come, the second guard ordered. Her legs felt weak as she stepped through. The driveway stretched wide before her, lined with manicured lawns and flowering shrubs trimmed into perfect shapes. The house loomed closer now, its windows tall, its walls pristine. She felt like a smudge on polished glass. Inside, the air was cool and scented faintly with something floral. Marble floors reflected the chandelier light above. Aisha hesitated, afraid her worn slippers might leave marks. Stand there, one guard instructed, pointing to a spot near a large wooden table. She obeyed, clutching the wallet tightly. Voices murmured somewhere deeper inside the house. Footsteps approached. Slow. Measured. Then he appeared. Chief Colonel Adeyemi was taller than she expected. His presence filled the room before he spoke a single word. He wore a simple dark outfit, not flashy but unmistakably expensive. His face was serious, lines of authority etched into it. His eyes landed on the wallet in her hands. Silence stretched between them. Aisha felt her courage threatening to crumble. But she stepped forward and placed the wallet carefully on the table between them. I found it this morning, sir, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nothing is missing. He did not touch it immediately. His gaze shifted from the wallet to her face. Studying. Measuring. You walked all the way here, he asked finally, his voice calm but deep. Yes, sir. Why? The question hung in the air. The guards watched closely. Aisha swallowed. Because it is yours. Chief Colonel's expression did not change. Do you know how much money is in that wallet? Yes, sir. And you still brought it? She nodded. He stepped closer, stopping just a few feet away. Most people would not. Aisha's fingers trembled slightly, but she kept her head lifted. I am not most people, she said softly. The words lingered in the silent room. For a brief second, something flickered in the billionaire's eyes, something that was not suspicion. Recognition. The room remained silent long after Aisha's words settled into the polished marble floor. I am not most people. Chief Colonel Adeyemi did not respond immediately. He finally reached for the wallet, his movement slow and deliberate. The leather looked smaller in his large hands. He opened it, flipped through the compartments, checked the cards, the money, the receipts. Everything was intact. Even the folded photograph remained exactly where he had placed it. He paused when he saw it. Carefully, he removed the photograph and stared at it longer than he had at anything else in the room. The guard shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Aisha watched his face change, subtly but unmistakably. The stern businessman dissolved for a brief second, replaced by something far more vulnerable. "Where exactly did you say you found this?" he asked quietly. "Ojalegba Junction, sir. Near the curb." He nodded faintly, almost to himself. "I stepped out of the car there this morning. Traffic was heavy." He closed the wallet gently. "You could have kept it." "Yes, sir. You needed the money. It wasn't a question." Aisha hesitated, then nodded once. "And yet you brought it here." "Yes, sir." He studied her again, this time more carefully. "What is your name?" "Aisha Bello." "How old are you, Aisha?" 15, sir." "Where are your parents?" The question pierced deeper than she expected. She lowered her eyes briefly. "My mother died 3 years ago. I don't know where my father is." Silence returned, heavier now. Chief Cunnell walked toward a large window overlooking the estate's gardens. His reflection stared back at him through the glass. When he spoke again, his voice had lost some of its edge. "Do you know who the girl in that photograph is?" "No, sir." "My daughter." The word lingered in the air. "She left Nigeria 8 years ago," he continued. There was disagreement. Anger. Pride. She said she would find her own path. He glanced at the photograph again. "She has not spoken to me in 2 years." The guards exchanged subtle glances. This was clearly not something he shared often. Aisha listened quietly. "I carry this photograph," he said, holding it up slightly, "to remind myself of a time when things were simple. Before ego. Before mistakes." He turned to face her fully. "You returned more than money today." Aisha felt her chest tighten. "So? You returned something I cannot replace." She did not know what to say. So she simply stood there. Chief Cunnell walked back to the table and placed the photograph carefully inside the wallet again. Then he looked at her with a new intensity. "What were you going to do with the money?" She answered honestly. "Eat. Maybe find a place to sleep for some days." "And after that?" She hesitated. "I don't know." He nodded slowly. "At least you are truthful." He gestured toward one of the guards. "Bring a chair." The guard blinked in surprise but obeyed. Aisha was guided to sit for the first time since entering the house. Her legs were trembling from exhaustion. Chief Cunnell remained standing. "Tell me something, Aisha. When you saw how much was inside, what stopped you?" She thought carefully before answering. "If I kept it, I would always know." "Know what?" "That I traded who I am for comfort." The billionaire's gaze sharpened. "And who are you?" She swallowed. "Someone my mother raised to have clean hands." For a moment, the room seemed to shrink around that sentence. Chief Cunnell let out a slow breath. "Do you believe honesty changes destiny?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" "Because if you choose wrong once, it becomes easier to choose wrong again." The guards were no longer pretending not to listen. Chief Cunnell gave a faint, almost invisible smile. "Most adults I know do not think that way." He walked to a small side table and poured a glass of water, handing it to her personally. "Drink." Her hands shook as she accepted it. She drank quickly but carefully, afraid of spilling. He watched her for a long moment. Then he asked the question no one expected. "If I offered you money right now, would you take it?" The guard stiffened again. Aisha lowered the glass slowly. She thought about the cold nights. The hunger. The uncertainty. Then she looked at him. "If you are paying me for returning what is yours, no." His eyebrow lifted slightly. "And if I am offering help?" She hesitated longer this time. "Help is different." "How?" Payment ends the moment it is given. Help can change tomorrow. Chief Cunnell's expression shifted once more, this time not with vulnerability, but with decision. You said you walked all the way here. Yes, sir. Without eating. She nodded faintly. He turned to one of the guards. Call the kitchen. The guard moved quickly. Aisha blinked in confusion. Sir, I did not come for food. I know. Then why? Because integrity should not go hungry. The word struck her deeply. Within minutes, a tray was brought in, simple but warm food. Rice. Stew. Chicken. The aroma alone made her stomach ache. Eat, he instructed gently. She looked at him uncertainly. Thank you, sir. As she began to eat, carefully at first, he remained standing, watching quietly. Not as a powerful man observing a beggar, but as someone studying something rare. After a few minutes, he spoke again. Aisha. She looked up. You returned my wallet. But you also reminded me of something I have been neglecting. She waited. My daughter's promise. He tapped the wallet lightly. Perhaps it is time I try to find my way back too. The room felt different now. Less tense. When she finished eating, she placed the fork down neatly. Thank you, sir. He nodded once. You will not return to the street tonight. Her heart skipped. So. I do not reward honesty with charity. I invest in it. The guards exchanged stunned glances. Chief Cunnell Adeyemi looked at the girl who had walked across Lagos to return what was not hers, and made a decision that would ripple far beyond that night. Tomorrow, he said calmly, your life begins differently. The words did not feel real at first. Tomorrow, your life begins differently. Aisha sat very still, as though any sudden movement might shatter the moment. She had learned not to trust beautiful sentences. On the streets, promises dissolved faster than morning mist. Chief Cunnell noticed the hesitation in her eyes. You do not believe me, he said calmly. She lowered her gaze. I have heard many things before, sir. And how many came true? She gave a small, honest shrug. Not many. A faint smile touched his lips, not amused, but understanding. Fair enough. He turned to one of the guards. Have a guest room prepared. The guard blinked. So? You heard me? Yes, sir. The guard left quickly. Aisha's heart thudded loudly in her chest. Sir. I cannot stay here. Why not? She struggled for words. This place, it is not for someone like me. Chief Cunnell stepped closer, his tone steady but firm. Do you know what this house is made of? She shook her head. Brick. Cement. Glass. The same materials as every other house in this city. Wealth does not change the structure of walls. She looked around at the gleaming surfaces, the chandeliers, the polished marble floors. It feels different. That is because people have told you it is. His words settled slowly into her. He gestured toward the chair. Sit comfortably. You are not trespassing. She remained standing for a second longer, then obeyed. He returned to the table and placed the wallet down carefully. Do you know how many people approach me every week asking for money? She shook her head again. Hundreds. Some come with convincing stories. Some with tears. Some with threats. He paused. You are the first to walk in and leave money behind. I was not going to leave without giving it to you, she said quietly. Exactly. He studied her for a long moment, then asked, Can you read? Yes, sir. Right. Yes, sir. Did you attend school? Until my mother got sick. And after she passed. There was no one to pay the fees. The room grew quiet again. Chief Colonel folded his hands behind his back. Aisha, I built my first company from nothing. People see the buildings now. The cars. The headlines. They think I was always here. He shook his head slightly. They did not see the years of sleeping in unfinished offices. The rejections. The humiliation. She listened carefully. Integrity was the only thing I owned that no one could take from me, he continued. Today, you reminded me of that. A knock came softly at the door. The guard returned. The room is ready, sir. Good. Aisha's pulse quickened again. Chief Colonel turned back to her. Tonight, you will sleep here. Tomorrow, we will discuss school. Her breath caught. School. Yes. Her eyes widened. Sir. I cannot afford. You misunderstand me. His voice was calm, decisive. You will not be affording it. She stared at him, unable to process the sentence. I told you, he said quietly. I invest in integrity. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. She quickly wiped them away with the back of her hand, embarrassed. I do not want charity. This is not charity, he replied firmly. Charity feeds you for a day. Investment prepares you for life. She swallowed hard. Why would you do this for me? He held her gaze. Because you did the right thing when no one was watching. The simplicity of the answer made her chest ache. One of the house staff members appeared, a kind-looking older woman. Come with me, dear, she said gently. Aisha hesitated, looking once more at Chief Colonel. Thank you, sir. He nodded once. Rest. She followed the woman down a wide hallway lined with framed photographs and artwork. The floors felt cool beneath her feet. The guest room door opened quietly. Aisha stepped inside and froze. The bed alone looked bigger than the entire space she used to share with her mother. Crisp white sheets. Soft pillows. A small lamp glowing warmly in the corner. There was even a bathroom attached. This is for me, she whispered. The woman smiled kindly. Yes. After the woman left, Aisha stood in the center of the room, unsure what to touch first. She set her small nylon bag carefully on the floor. It looked painfully out of place against the elegant furniture. She walked to the mirror mounted on the wall and stared at her reflection. Dusty dress. Tired eyes. Hair undone. Tomorrow, she murmured softly, testing the word. She moved to the bathroom and turned the tap cautiously. Clean water flowed instantly. She stared at it in disbelief before washing her hands slowly, watching the dirt swirl away. Later, after changing into a simple nightdress the house staff had provided, she sat on the edge of the bed. It felt impossibly soft. Her mind replayed the day in fragments, the junction, the wallet, the photograph, the long walk, the towering gate. If she had made a different choice that morning, she would still be on the pavement. Counting coins. Fighting hunger. Instead, she was here. Not because of luck. Because of a decision. Across the house, Chief Colonel stood alone in his study. The wallet rested on his desk. He removed the photograph once more, staring at his daughter's smiling face. For Daddy. I will always find my way back to you. He exhaled slowly. Perhaps the path back did not begin with grand gestures. Perhaps it began with small acts of honesty, like a girl walking across Lagos with blistered feet. He reached for his phone and dialed a number he had avoided for months. It rang longer than he expected. Finally, a voice answered on the other end. Hello? He closed his eyes briefly before speaking. It's me. Upstairs, Aisha lay down carefully, almost afraid the bed might reject her. The sheets felt cool and clean against her skin. For the first time in years, there was no fear of rain soaking through cardboard. No fear of someone stealing her only belongings. No fear of waking up to another empty day. She stared at the ceiling, tears slipping quietly down her temples. Integrity should not go hungry. Tomorrow, her life would begin differently, not because someone handed her money, but because she chose who she wanted to be when it mattered most.